We're joined now by veteran journalist and chief national correspondent at the Daily Beast, David Gardner, to get the download on our new gossip column, The Swamp. The Swamp, which we think of as page 6 for politics. And Trump's Super Bowl win, because who won the Super Bowl? Donald Trump.
Oh, my goodness. Thank you so much for joining us. I have to admit I've been off my phone for the last 20 minutes, so I assume the whole world looks different. Can you get us up to speed? What is going on in D.C. right now? What's going on in our national swamp?
The funny thing is, you're not joking. I mean, the last 20 minutes, I mean, literally, I think the world did change a little bit. Tulsi Gabbard was just confirmed, and she was the least likely of all of Trump's lieutenants to get in. Now she's so likely that J.D. Vance didn't even bother coming back from Europe. He knew his vote wasn't needed if it got to be tight. So this is... she's going to be National Intelligence Director, head of the spies, head of the intelligence network.
If she's head of the intelligence network, I would like her to tell Usha Vance that when she gets off a plane in the pouring rain, it's more intelligent to wear something on your shoulders. She came down the steps of Air Force Two with naked shoulders. Sorry, David, I took you off track there, as I am wont to do. Please continue.
I sensed fatigue in your voice as you were describing the vote in favor of Tulsi Gabbard.
Well, I hope he's not fatigued. He's only been in D.C. a month.
Oh, my God.
So, I mean, so much has changed, though. I spoke to someone yesterday who'd been in D.C. and he was in the Clinton administration, and he's been very closely involved with politics in the city ever since. And he has literally seen nothing like this. It is so different from the normal. Things are changing every day, every moment. It's like a whirlwind, really.
Well, it feels a bit like the president's changing too, because we're recording this on a Wednesday. Last night, there was an amazing press conference in the Oval Office where a 4-year-old stole the limelight. By the way, can you imagine if it was a woman standing there with her 4-year-old? If Kristi Noem or Ice Barbie, as we call her at the Daily Beast, brought her child to the White House, people would go nuts. But somehow with Elon bringing his 4-year-old child called X, as Donald Trump helpfully told the audience there.
Yes.
He's a fantastic dad.
He's just a remarkable dad. And we were all treated to watching. I mean, and he's an adorable child. I'm not taking anything away from the child, but he was literally picking his nose through the entire press conference.
Do you think he was
the resolute test?
Wiping it on Donald Trump's trousers?
I hope he was. I certainly hope so.
David, we keep distracting you. So it's crazy times in DC, which is why we decided to launch The Swamp, correct?
Yes, indeed. Trying to give a good idea of these recurring characters: Elon Musk, Pete Hegseth, Tulsi Gabbard, Kash Patel. These are characters. I mean, they have very important roles in the running of our country, obviously, but they have rich backgrounds and interesting subjects for us to take a kind of deeper dive into.
Can I ask a question? How forthcoming are people with their storytelling? Do you have people contacting you all day and all night because they have something they want to say? Like, is there a tidal wave of people who are interested in speaking to you that in an unexpected way, or are you having trouble finding people who will speak?
No, we're not having trouble. But what I'm told is how it tends to work is that in the early days of an administration, people kind of take a little while just to see how the lie of the land is, and then they start, have their own little kind of beefs and problems and issues. Certainly, people are talking amongst themselves, and they're beginning to talk to us.
What we do have is a very good prompt, which I don't know if the camera can pick it up here, but it says, got secrets on your enemies, or more likely your friends, that need oozed out.
Wow. I can't keep up. I actually can't keep up. Do you think, did you reflect on Trump's presence at the Super Bowl? He was the first sitting president to ever attend a Super Bowl.
Obama talked to his staff about, he had parties, but they talked about going. So can we not go? Some of his kind of close confidants. And apparently the feeling was that it was a bit showy to turn up at the Super Bowl. And there's obviously security situations, but it seemed to be more the sort of showing off by turning up to a kind of perhaps a fun event. I mean, that did not trouble Donald Trump for one moment. I mean, it was a a great publicity coup. Simple. He just had to turn up. He even went home at half time. He didn't hang around. But in terms of actual faces, seeing him there, I mean, it's a vast TV audience, one of the biggest audiences of the year, if not the biggest.
Right, I think 1 in 3, right, watch the Super Bowl.
And he was there on the plane home. He was on True Social talking about kickoffs. I mean, he was talking to a base, and it was just such an easy hit. And the fact that Joe Biden had 4 years when this was kind of his dynamic too, the working class, blue collar, not so much the people at the Superdome, for instance, but the people sitting at home on their sofas. That would have been such an easy hit for him. He wouldn't have had to talk. He wouldn't have had to debate. He could have just waved a bit, clapped at the end and gone home. It would have been great. Instead, he was sort of tucked up back at the White House and kind of disappearing. And I think that was noticed. And even David Axelrod, a Democrat loyalist, was saying, perhaps it wouldn't have been a bad idea for him to turn up.
Why is he so keen to disregard security risks? He does seem to take, for someone who has, survived an assassination attempt, he seems very brazenly, just open-hearted about kind of going into large crowds and embracing.
Did you just say Donald Trump was open-hearted?
Just about one thing, and that's getting publicity. That's it. Putting on a show. But I mean, he does, he's golfing. He's doing all the things that I'm sure his security detail is like, please don't do this.
I'm just astonished that once again, Donald Trump manages to find an extraordinary opportunity to reach people on television that's been hiding in plain sight that no other president has thought to do. And what a low lift for him, flies in and out, huge adoring crowd, half of them boo, he doesn't care, and all we've done is talk about how he's the MVP of the game. I mean, David, your column was brilliant on it.
Well, as you say, hiding in plain sight, it's such an easy hit, and that's kind of I guess that's his talent. I mean, he knows TV. That's the way he works. He works through that dynamic. He has a gift for publicity. That is undoubtedly true.
What did we think about Lawrence O'Donnell saying that he was utterly humiliated by Elon Musk in the press conference, and that this was just humiliating, that Donald Trump sat there, Elon stood, the body language of him standing above the child, it was literally all about Elon. And then you could sort of see Donald looking at him and appraising him as he was doing it.
I felt like you could see him looking at the child and thinking, what do I do? Am I supposed to talk to it? Do I have to relate to it in some way? Okay, I'll give him a little smile.
He was at the kids' table, wasn't he? He was effectively, banished to the kids' table while the grown-ups talked.
He did look physically small.
Interesting.
But it doesn't seem to move anybody. I mean, I don't know what to say at this point. I'm kind of like, he's just allowing Elon Musk to stand behind the desk and say whatever he wants to say with no proof, no nothing, no details. A child is just running around. I'm like, I agree that he looks small, and I agree that he looks weak, and I agree that he is actually pretty weak. And but I don't think it matters. Anyway, that's my...
I thought Elon's comment that the bureaucracy is the fourth arm of government and it's unelected and it sort of digs in and does what it wants actually rang true for me. I think that's what happens whenever new administrations come in, and the real internal strife actually often happens between the government and the administration and the bureaucracy. I mean, I sort of get what he means about the deep state. And I've seen friends, certainly in the UK, take over, think they were going to be able to roll out policies which essentially people had voted for, and then spend their entire time in tussles with the civil service who will not change.
Sure. I mean, I don't think that there's anybody within the civil service who doesn't think that changes can be made and processes can be tightened and things can be better. I'm just not really sure that Elon Musk and his band of merry engineers is the team to do it responsibly and with care. And I'm actually not sure that that money is going to be returned to the American people in the way that they seem to say that it is.
Well, it would be nice to have more transparency on the actual money, what they've found that's really as bloated as they claim, clearly. But I do understand the resistance and the frustration with that resistance when you come in somewhere and you want to make changes and people aren't on board.
Sure, but I think they're going about it in such an astonishingly bad way that there's no way that you can get, there's no way that any reasonable person could get behind this process, I don't think.
David, are all the bars and restaurants full of people talking? Does it feel to be lots of energy in DC?
I think there's nothing, it's the subject on everybody's lips, really, and most of them complaining because they don't know what's going on. I think they feel unsafe, and I think there's a distinct sense of chaos, which this kind of daily bombardment of change has created. I mean, it's unusual for DC because it's a 4-year cycle, isn't it? There's like one party has a giant egg time when they kind of put it upside down at the beginning of the term and wait for it to kind of seep out the other end and bide their time. It's more difficult this time because a lot of those people, the bureaucrats we're talking about, no longer have jobs. I mean, they've literally lost their jobs. I think what is kind of lost in all this is that we talk blithely about people being cut here, there, and everywhere, and Elon Musk has a habit of doing this. But these are people with families, with livelihoods, with homes, with mortgages, with bills, and they are suddenly kind of out in the cold and with no real preparation. It's kind of affected the whole balance of Washington.
Right. And people located overseas who have children in schools, who have jobs, who have careers, who suddenly all of their funding is cut off. Medical trials, all the funding is cut off. You have to gather all the patients together and go, oh, by the way, give me back this uterine ring. The experiment is over. Everybody go home. Like, people's lives are being directly impacted by this like cowboy bullshit, and it is making my head explode.
Well, you can go to thedailybeast.com. You can sign up for the swamp, which we advise you to do. And David, just give people a teaser of what the top stories are on the swamp this week.
Well, we were absolutely fascinated by the goings on at the Kennedy Center. This is a kind of a classic performing arts center. It's kind of run independently, kind of, from the ruling power at the time. It's a wonderful center, but it's been thrown into, again, disarray by President Trump suddenly imposing himself as chairman, really moving half of the board of trustees who have been there a long time, who are very much ingrained in life in Washington. He's kicked them aside and put in a former ambassador to Germany, who basically upset all the Germans when he was there, as the kind of performer in chief. He's going to run this place. The wonder is now that perhaps the ballet and the National Theatre may be replaced by military marching bands. It's certainly affected the kind of what we call the deep society of Washington, the permanent elite, the people who've been here a long time, the people with the power, with the money, the people you don't really see. This is a knife has been dug quite deep here, and so we were intrigued to see how that's affected people. And essentially, the idea is that these people, these same deep society elite, effectively ignored Trump last time. They will ignore him this time. They want nothing to do with him, and it bugs him. I mean, it's like a rash he can't scratch. So the feeling is that he's gone into the heartland, into the Kennedy Center, and kind of planted his flag and said, I'm here. You're going to have to deal with me now. So that's an intriguing idea. We've also got Hunter Biden, fresh from his pardon, off to Hollywood, looking for work. He's got a documentary he wants to sell, a podcast he wants to sell, competition podcast.
Oh,
so watch out.
Joanna.
I think we should,
bring him into the family.
Okay, we should invite Hunter on as a guest, with or without his laptop. I will say, I went to the Kennedy Center Honors one year. Reba McEntire was one of the honorees. So was Cher. So it's not like it's a super elite, it's not they're only giving prizes to opera. The cast of Hamilton got an award. I mean, Steve Mnuchin was in the audience. So it wasn't actually, and he was then Trump's Treasury Secretary. So it wasn't like it was this super elite white tie, you've got to be a billionaire to get through the door. I mean, Kelly Clarkson was up on the stage.
It's a performing arts center. Yeah, for sure. But that, for me, that is the story that actually, as I said earlier in the podcast, that is the story that did me in the last couple of days, just because I think, as you're saying, patrons of the arts, kind of people who are at that level of things, they feel like their wealth enables them in some way to ignore what Trump is doing. They're sort of like exist in a different world where they can go about their lives, they get their tax benefit, they hate his guts, they support other causes, they continue to support their causes, they support the arts. And then when the arts get interfered with, that is a super deep cut. That's very personal. And also it's very, as I said earlier, it's very imaginative and it's very weird. And that part is the scariest thing to me. Not that it's not the actual issue that's scary, it's the imagination behind it that is actually it's chilling to me.
Well, the idea of, David, when you say marching bands suddenly feels chilling, that we go from Kelly Clarkson and Cher and Hamilton to the marching bands, and a sort of that does feel a bit North Korean. I will say, when I read his note on Truth Social saying I'm going to replace them with the greatest chairman of all time, Donald J. Trump, you're like, oh, this doesn't feel great.
Mm-hmm. Yes. I don't know who's in charge now. Who is the former German ambassador?
Rick Grenell.
It's Rick Grenell. Oh, yeah. Oh, God.
Who has absolutely no background in show business of any kind.
So
the perfect man.
Perfect man. He's got great taste.
So Billy Ray Cyrus, who do we think will be the honorees this year? Billy Ray Cyrus, Carrie Underwood.
Certainly.
Who did do a good job at the inauguration, bless her, when the music went down.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like, anyway, we'll have a WWE Raw in the concert hall. It'll be great.
The funny thing is, apparently Melania was talking previously about wanting to get more involved in the Kennedy Center, and then suddenly her husband has dumped himself as chairman. So I think that's a pass.
So maybe this is his way, basically, of just spending more time with his wife.
God.
David, thank you very much. In the 20 minutes we've been talking, the world has turned. You better get back and start reporting on it.
I should say, Tulsi Gabbard is now the National Intelligence Director. It's changed that much.
Look at that.
There you go.
Oh, yeah. Wow. Let's all sit back while we systematically dismantle the national security apparatus. Sounds good.
David, thank you very much.
I appreciate it. Thank you.